welcome back to the Haunted Escapes YouTube channel, or welcome if you are new here. As this is going out, it's Memorial Day, so we'd like to give our thanks and remembrance to everybody who has died and fought for our freedom. You're always remembered. And on this episode, we do something a little bit different. We have a interview with Jim Hubmaster, who is going to be reading the stories on our Candleit Stories podcast. We just wanted everybody to get to know him a little bit and see who would be the person who is going to be essentially the voice behind that podcast. Always check out our socials, check out our Buy Us a Coffee, and remember to follow us on Facebook and our website, which is hauntedescapes.wixsite.com/haunted. We are going to be looking on getting a domain fairly soon. So enjoy, everybody, and I hope you all had a good Memorial Day. Bye.
Welcome to Haunted Escapes with Chris and Diane.
This podcast will talk about strange and mysterious stories from around the world.
Some will be about places we've been and experienced for ourselves,
as well as things we've learned and read about, including hauntings, folklore, and cryptids. Join us on our Haunted Escapes.
This is Christine.
This is Jessie.
And we are the hosts of the podcast Dark Mysteries.
Please come join us every Monday for
some crazy true crime,
some spooky paranormal,
and of course it wouldn't be complete without some weird and creepy.
You can find us on Spotify,
of course on Patreon,
as well as Amazon and many others.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Hi, I'm Hannah.
And I'm Jess. We're the hosts of the Wicked Wanderings podcast.
Join us every Wednesday as we explore the mysteries of true crime,
the paranormal,
and all things creepy.
We'll take you on a journey through well-known cases
and stories off the beaten path that are sure to leave an impression.
So stay curious,
keep exploring,
and always remember to keep on wandering. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome to Haunted Escapes with Chris and Diane.
Hello.
So today we have a special episode where we're going to be having a little sit-down chat with the new host of our new podcast, Jim Hubmaster. Hey, Jim, how you doing?
Hey, guys. How you doing, Chris and Diane?
Good. How are you?
Living the dream. It's a nice Saturday, so.
Yeah, for once, right?
For once. And I was totally lying. It is raining, a little cloudy, but what are you going to do?
I think it's just spitting, though. It's nicer than last week. Last week was a washout.
It was cold, too, so at least the weekend's supposed to be a little bit better temperature-wise.
I think tomorrow's supposed to be pretty nice, too.
Yeah, 73 and sunny, man. I can't wait.
Yeah, that'll be a nice change from all this crap rain we've been having.
Totally sounded like a weatherman with that.
Right now we have cloudy skies, 62 degrees.
So talk a little bit about yourself. Introduce yourself. Tell everybody who's listening who you are.
Sure. My name is Jim Hubmaster. I work with Chris. The place we work at is called Penepic. Hopefully I'm allowed to say that. If not, Diane, I know you're good at editing.
Okay.
I don't think it's a problem saying it. I doubt Mike's going to be like, yo.
On and off in broadcasting for, 23 years. Radio and television, did both. More radio, and found my niche. I want to say it was around probably 2005, 2006, when I landed a job with a company called Metro Networks. They're in Philadelphia, basically City Line Avenue area.
Okay.
And it was all traffic. It was the first time I did it. Before then, I'd done news. I tried disc jockeying. I could tell you it was the worst disc jockey you ever heard in your life.
Now I want to hear some of your disc jockey stuff.
No, trust me. You don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
And then from there to a station that's pretty big here in Philadelphia, which you guys know, but for those listening, called KYW. And was with them for several years until COVID hit. And that's how I now work with Chris.
Yeah, man. Thanks, COVID.
Thanks, COVID.
Yeah, COVID screwed everything up, man. Even before I started working at Penepic, the place I was at, we were there. I was going on 18 years, and then they closed down because of it. So everybody got screwed when that thing hit.
They really did, man. It was, it's still a little crazy, but it seems like it's getting back to normal, which is good. But yeah, a lot of people unfortunately lost their jobs, and a lot more, unfortunately.
Yeah, we're lucky that we were able to find other places to be employed at. Some people weren't able to even get back on their feet from it.
Yeah, that's the truth too, man. I mean, I still know people who are still looking, which is crazy to say. Working, luckily, but not in their field, which is unbelievable. But, with podcasting, what you guys do, and you guys are amazing at what you do, is
Well,
that
Aw.
is that is the trend now. So terrestrial radio is dying.
definitely, I kind of feel the same way. I think that, like, back in the older days when we were younger, growing up, I mean, you're only a little older than us. So you remember the radio was the big thing. You would have all your radio stations you would listen to. You would listen to MMR or YSP,
Yeah.
get a little bit of chatting in the morning, but you got your news through it. But now, with streaming services and everything, you don't need it anymore. If I want to listen to, say, Metallica, before I'd have to sit there and wait and hope that a song came on or call and ask them to play a song. Nowadays, I can just make a playlist of nothing but it, and I can just go with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's really cool what they've done, but it's also a shame for people who are in that industry. But, you have a lot of people like yourselves and other people that I know are transitioning, and podcasting is the way to go. And, it seems like that's, really, it's been taking off for years, I should say.
Yeah, really, like, especially when Sirius Satellite came out, that's when it first really started taking off. And the only problem is there's, like, so many thousands of podcasts out there. So that's why you just got to find your niche. And when you're in it, that's why we do, like, ad shares, where we'll swap shares with people that with their listeners hear our ad. So then they'll be like, hey, they might listen to that whole podcast season, but then they might be like, well, now I need something else. They can think, okay, I'll play this. And then you get those listeners too.
Yeah, it's wild, but it's so neat at the same time.
Yeah. So did you go to school to learn the radio casting, or were you just like self-taught, learned on the job? How'd that work?
I went to a place in 1998, so they're showing my age a little bit, called the Connecticut School of Broadcasting over in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. And it was a 6-month course. And it was pretty crazy how it came about because my father actually found it. Being in the car, to throw an old name out there, some people know it, some don't, but Harry Donahue, who was on KYW, was my idol. And I remember listening going, I want to do that. And was landscaping, labor work, and went there. And after 6 months, started slowly. Back then, you had a lot of smaller stations. That died years ago. When I mean small stations where people could go and get their start. And if you heard some of the stuff in the beginning that I did, ooh, it's bad. But that's how you learn.
Well, yeah, you learn from your mistakes, and then you can polish it, and then it becomes your craft.
And then it becomes it, yeah. But, I got very lucky with finding that and doing that. And, it's all it basically does, that school. You're just concentrating. It's just imagine a trade school at a much smaller scale.
I get you. Okay. That's cool. And have you been... have you ever listened to any podcasts? Do you listen to them? Do you not listen to them? Is it a new scene for you?
It's a new scene for me. I haven't really gotten into listening to full episodes of shows. There are tons of clips that you see that are hilarious of all different kinds of people. I love Tom Segura and Bert Kreischer. So 2 bears, 1 cave. That's very funny to me. Joey Diaz. I don't know if you guys know who he is. I'll watch clips of his. Of course, Joe Rogan. But I don't subscribe to them. Sorry to say that. And I don't really listen to them, if that makes sense. Just starting to be introduced to it. So now I will, but I really have never gotten into it until you and I started talking and realizing and learning what you do. I'm like, man, that's pretty cool. And have to start checking these things out.
I mean, somebody like Joe Rogan, his podcast, that's insane how big he's made it. He actually has a show where you can watch him and he's just recording his podcast, and he's just him interviewing people, and it's pretty cool how big he's gotten, and there's a lot of people who get like that.
Excuse me. Yeah, it is unbelievable with him. I mean, but one of the originals to do it, which is pretty cool too.
Well, that's just it. Yeah, all the names like that started, they paved the way for it. They're the ones that started it. They're the ones that jumped on the band early on, so they're going to be the big. Everybody wants to try to be like them.
And, it's finding your niche. And with talking with you and what you and Diane are doing, that niche is amazing. It's really cool what you guys are doing. And after it was explained, with the stories and how you write is unbelievable. I mean, that talent in itself is insanity to me. You're very good at what you do. And listening to you guys are amazing doing what you do. And it's a really cool niche.
Well, thank you very much for the compliments. I greatly appreciate it. Like when I first met Jim and they told me he worked in KYW, I asked him, of course, so he could give me a lowdown so we could hear it. And he did a whole news thing, how he would done it. And I was like, oh my God, that's the perfect voice for like radio. And then I just started talking to him about the podcast, and I told him what we were doing. He agreed to come on board and join us with it and help us out with it. So, I mean, fantastically thankful for that
Yes.
alone.
Well, you're
Thank you. I know. I remember you were so excited that day. You were like walking on air. You were like, "You got to listen to this guy's voice."
That's
It's
awesome.
Oh, I've told you, Jim, that you got that. You definitely have that, the right voice for the type of like radio and any kind of broadcasting. And it's just one of those things where it's pretty interesting to think that all paths, every path that you followed led me to wind up meeting you. Just so happened that we were doing a podcast. Just so happened that you did
It's crazy.
broadcasting. It really is. Like when you really break it down, it's like these things, the way the stuff just fell into place is just pretty interesting. I just
It
find it to
is.
be cool. So,
And, for people listening, PenFab, Chris and I work with Steel to tell you how close we are to the broadcasting world where we work every day. Right.
yeah,
So
right.
it is pretty wild how we met and where this is going is crazy.
I
yeah.
know, it really is. You would never in a million years expect something like
No.
that to happen, but it did.
And I was
And
I was
glad that it
putting it
did.
all behind me and just moving on with my life. I got to do it for a long time, made it to the station I wanted to make it to, got to actually, be full time at that place. KYW is what I'm talking about, and basically live that dream, if that makes sense.
That's awesome.
No, absolutely. That's what, when you start into a career like that, you have your goals like that. And it's fantastic that you were able to meet that goal and you achieved pretty much what your dream was. And then it's just, I think that's pretty fascinating. And it just shows that, like, you can really, if you, as long as you put the work in, you'll be able to achieve your goals.
And I am a firm believer in that. And it's pretty cool if going back to what I talked about a couple of minutes ago when I was talking about listening to Harry Donahue. One of the coolest things I got to do is I got to be on with Harry Donahue.
Oh, that's awesome.
So the
that's
guy
really cool.
that I idolized growing up and listened to, I was his traffic reporter for one day, but I got to do it. So
That's
it was
awesome.
cool.
But still, that's
Yeah,
fantastic.
it was definitely a neat moment. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's just like everything you worked on that you achieved it.
It
That's
was, yeah.
fantastic. I mean, that's what everybody wants to do.
Absolutely. It's crazy to think about that's what I did because I'm so far removed from it. You don't even think about it on a daily basis. Just everybody gets up, you go to work. I enjoy our work with you guys. I love that place. Everybody's awesome. So you just don't even think about it. And then every once in a blue moon, you'll run into somebody and, hey, aren't you? And you go, oh, wow. Yeah, I did used to do that. Hi, how are you? Nice to meet you. Blah, blah, blah. Or when I'm around my wife, her name is Kira. She, I think, only fell in love with me because of my voice.
It's okay. Diane only fell in love with me because of my hair. So I mean,
I'll tell you what, buddy. I do want to run my fingers through your hair, pal. I'm not going to lie. That's awesome. That's what I always say because she, your voice. So other than that, I think I'm an empty shirt. You know what I mean? So I know she wants to kill me right now because she can hear me. So
we're going to be telling stories and everything. So wondering, you have any kind of story you would like to tell, spooky wise or other?
Well, it's with that, I really never had. I shouldn't say a belief, because you always know something's out there, but I never really thought of it or looked for it. But to go into one, which is true, which is a little wild. I was 9 years old and my mother passed away from ovarian cancer. So I remember, being afraid. You're a kid. So, jumped in bed with my father to go to sleep. And the only experience I ever had is I just remember I opened my eyes and she was standing right there. And then real quick, closed my eyes and went, go away, go away, go away. Never want to see this again. And never saw anything again. So if I see I am moving, so I know we have to address that. And Chris and Diane have been picking on me because it's an older house and they're telling me I'm going to see something. And if I do, it will be the fastest move in and move out you've ever seen in your life. But yeah, I mean, other than that, really nothing. I've heard a bunch of stories from different people who have experienced different things. And of course, talking with you, Chris, with your experiences are crazy and the stuff you've seen, wild.
Yeah. I mean, I believe that, again, there's something there. And we've had weird stuff happen. And I think that it's just stuff like that that's unexplainable. It interests me because you want to find out, like, what it could be. all that stuff, and I like telling stories. So that's why we decided to do Candleit Story, because not only because we're doing our other podcast and we're telling like stories of places we've been to and things that we've researched, but I like writing, so I just figured that I would try making up some stories, get them out there, and finding you to read them was fantastic, and I think that it's going to be pretty good, and I'm hoping that everybody who listens to it enjoys it.
I think they will, with how your writing is and how good those stories are. It doesn't matter who's going to read them, to be honest with you. That's how good they are. I mean,
Well, thank you.
you knocked my socks off with those, man. They're really good stories.
Oh, thank you. But, even with the stories, you got to it's a two-way thing. You have the voice that can actually get the story out there. Because if I just read the story or somebody else, it's not going to have it's all about the delivery. And you know how to make those deliveries. You know how to put the proper emphasis on words and things. And that's a big skill, especially for something like this, in order for it to be done. You want it to be done as professionally as possible. So the fact that you know how to do all that is fantastic. So hopefully with the stories that I'm writing, and I know the way you're going to read them is going to be fantastic. We've got your intro that we've played. That's got a whole bunch of hits already. We've had the ad. We've put the ad out there. That's got a lot of people who are looking forward to it. So once our first episode gets out there, I think it's gonna be pretty good. And if it takes off, propel us to the stratosphere.
I'm in for the ride, no doubt. But yeah, much looking forward to that, and getting an opportunity to read what you write is pretty cool. And hopefully it comes across good, and I think people are really going to enjoy it. I really do.
Yeah, I really hope that everybody enjoys the stories, and so hopefully the first one will be ready to go. I'd like to do it next month sometime, so hopefully sometime in June we'll be able to get the first episode.
That'd be awesome.
And then when that's done, we're gonna go from there. I guess we'll try to release it weekly or bi-weekly, whichever we can do with our schedules and everything.
Is there anything you're looking forward to, like with our podcast, or any other voiceover work that you might do, like in the future?
Just very much thankful for the opportunity that you guys are giving me and the trust you're putting in me, and I'm very, very excited to do this. That's what I'm looking forward to.
We're very excited to have you help us out.
Oh, absolutely. And if you when we're done with that, you'll be able to go and grab some other work too if you want.
Well, yeah, you go out there and voiceover work is also something I've looked into for years and years. Just a very hard thing to get into, and you also have to find, again, use the word, I apologize, your niche. My voice deep. It's a newsy voice, so it's very hard to find work in that, if that makes sense. Movie trailers, that's just saturated. My voice could work for something like that. Impossible to get into. That's why reading your stories, I feel it works, because the way you write and what they're about is why I agreed to it, because it fits, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
No, yeah, it totally makes sense. But you definitely, I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be pretty good. I'm hoping that it's going to be pretty big and go off pretty well.
That's my hope too, and I think it will. I really do.
I have a good feeling about it. I think we're going to do very well with it. And like I said, it's a partnership, and we're all going to be in it together. We're all on the board for the ride, and I think it will.
Absolutely. And very much looking forward to, getting Candleit Stories up and running, getting it going, get these stories done for you, and let's see where we go. Pretty excited about it.
Absolutely. That sounds good. That sounds great. Yeah,
but I will say this, and I had to bring it up, and I hope I'm allowed to. One of the stories that Chris wrote is called Vampire. So far, one of my favorites. And my favorite line, I should say, the little paragraph in it is, "We are always watching and waiting. We see you now. We are closer than you think. We smell your apprehension, your fear." That is awesome. Awesome.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
That is my favorite part of that. Just to give you guys an idea who are listening, that's how good Chris is at writing. That is amazing.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. But again, That was that was a really well. Just the way you sounded when you're reading it was good. You get
Mhm.
just the right amount of sinisterness at the end of it, which is pretty cool.
Okay.
So I'm looking forward to hearing the full one. And we'll be able to get that, and then there's going to be a bunch
Yeah,
more
man.
after that. All right, this is awesome. Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much,
guys.
Jim.
Thank you. We're very excited. We're very happy you're helping us out with this.
Very happy to help you
Absolutely.
out.
Hopefully, we'll have season 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, all the way up to the moon.
That's awesome.
All right. Thank you again, Jim. That was great. That was Jim Hubmaster, who's going to be reading for our new podcast, Candleit Stories, which we're going to be hoping to have out sometime in June for the first couple episodes. And that vampire, the line that he read, that is going to be one of the stories that will be in the first episode. So everybody listening, I hope you all tune in and you keep that candle burning.
Thanks again to Jim Hubmaster for being our guest on this episode. He is going to be reading the stories for our new podcast, Candleit Stories. And Haunted Escapes has a Buy Me a Coffee. You can find that at buymeacoffee.com/haunted. You can also check out our website at hauntedescapes.wixsite.com/haunted. We will find up-to-date information, merchandise, and more. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and all of our social media. And as of right now, our Candleit Stories is up on Spotify. And once we get everything up and rolling next month, it will be wherever you listen to podcasts. Thank you again, everyone. Bye.